Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Angered by the 48,000 naira proposal by the federal government as the national minimum wage, the labor unions comprising the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress have walked out of the ongoing minimum wage negotiations with government and the organized private sector. Ajero maintained that government has till the end of the month to arrive at a decision, adding that Labour will take a decision at the expiration of the ultimatum.
The government's proposal of a paltry 48,000 naira as the minimum wage does not only insult the sensibilities of Nigerian workers, but also falls significantly short of meeting our needs and aspirations. In contrast, organized private sector proposed an initial offer of 54,000. Though it is worth noting that even the least paid workers in the private sectors receive 78,000 naira. As clearly stated by the organized private sector, highlighting the stark disparity between the proposed minimum wage and prevailing standards, further demonstrating the unwillingness of the employers and government to faithfully negotiate a fair national minimum wage for workers in Nigeria. So I think maybe they should go back to drawing board. And of course, between now and the end of the month is enough time.
And in a joint statement signed by Ajero and Okon, the TUC Deputy President, after the meeting, the government's proposal, the statement states, of a paltry 48,000 naira as the minimum wage does not only insult the sensibilities of Nigerian workers, but also falls significantly short of meeting our needs and aspirations, the statement reads. Joining us now on the morning show is Benson Upah, Head of the Department of Information of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Good morning, Mr. Upah. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Well, very quickly.
Good morning, Dr. Bati.
Yes, thank you. Well, very quickly, Labour is saying that 48,000 naira is unreasonable as minimum wage, or rather as living wage. Labour has been using the expression living wage. But what the federal government is negotiating is minimum wage, not living wage. Although President Tinubu has been talking about living wage, promising living wage, but that's not what the law is all about. The law is the National Minimum Wage Act. The Labour says 48,000 naira is not acceptable. 615,000 naira is what is acceptable. But that committee is a tripartite committee. Organized private sector says no. Even we cannot pay 615,000 as minimum wage. Only Labour seems to be standing alone. I know that NLC President Joe Ajero has outlined, how NLC arrived at 615,000 naira. But could you shed more light on Labour's objection and what will happen if government and organized private sector both insist that 615,000 naira is not possible as minimum wage?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, let me say that the counter offer of 48,000 naira is miserable and contemptible. And government knows this. As I speak with you, the government has not been able to explain how that will pan out. So now we are in a situation whereby we have been compelled by the World Bank and the IMF and their acolytes here to pay international rates it is only fair that we also get that we get a semblance of international wages. At the moment, at the minimum wage is 30,000 here in the country. The minimum wage in the US is 2.5 million naira. So, what is reasonable is what is reasonable. And as you said, yeah, what we are asking for is a national minimum wage. It should not be confused with a living wage. So the law is about the placement of a national minimum wage, below which no entity is allowed to pay. On our reaction on what we do if government fails to put a reasonable minimum wage in place by the end of the month, I will leave that decision to the organs of the Trade Union Congress and the Nigerian Labour Congress.
Right.
I have no doubt that they will take a decision that will be sensible.
All right, Mr. Upah, thank you. So I like the word you used, reasonable. Reasonable, you have said that
yes.
Government isn't being reasonable with their 48,000 naira offer. On the other hand, government and a number of people, to be
yes,
fair, the private sector including, have said that your demand for 615,000 naira, the minimum, is unreasonable. So what is reasonable? Because the point of going to the negotiation table is to meet, have a midpoint. But is there a midpoint from Labour's perspective? What will begin to sound reasonable? And I hear, don't worry, we've heard all the arguments for, or the arrival at the calculation of 615,000 naira. That was your, threshold. But what is reasonable?
Yes.
Because on both ends, both figures have now been deemed to be unreasonable.
Well, thank you very much once again. You see, when we made the offer of 615,000 naira, we felt it was sufficiently fair, but we were not. Deceived that the government or the private sector will bite. We believe that there was going to be a negotiation, but it's not up to us now to say, well, this is the point at which we will back down. But as it is, there has been no negotiation. What the government has done is simply an insult. Where you have no value for your workforce, this is precisely what you do. We are open to negotiations. We are not fixed on 615,000, but that negotiation has to be reasonable and sensible, not 48,000 naira. What are you going to do with 48,000 naira? We are talking about a family of 6 here. A husband, a wife, and 4 children. For most of us, it is much more than that. What will they do with 48,000 naira? The national currency has been devalued by close to 200%. The tariffs have been hiked. It's not only energy that has been affected. Other tariffs have moved up. School fees, rents, water board, everything in this country, which has led to a major social dislocation, a major demobilization, a major displacement. The entire country now, save a few privileged few, that top 1%, save that, is totally confused. We are in a state of confusion, and this is not fair.
Okay, so
how did they find ourselves in this kind of situation?
Okay, Mr. Upah, Mr. Benson, is between
Yes,
100 and
thank you.
200,000 isn't a good deal for labor? Let's say 150 or 200,000 is not a good deal. What about
No.
250,000?
No, it is not a good deal.
250,000, uncle?
Well, I cannot at this point in time now say this is the figure.
Okay, wait. Can I ask you a
we will
question,
not accept.
Mr. Upah? Can I ask you a question? Is 250,000
Yes, go
as
ahead.
minimum wage a good deal for you in a month?
I will not think so, and we need to look at the statistics. How much does a bag of rice go for now?
But you will not eat a
How
bag of
much
rice
does
in a
a
month.
bag of gari go for?
You will not eat a bag of rice in a month, Mr. Upah.
Yes, now.
Will you eat a bag of rice?
Let us look at it.
Will you eat a bag of rice in a month?
Well, it depends on the number. Well, it depends on the number. It depends on the number of rats in your house. So, but we are not saying that yes.
Well, you will not eat a
But we
bag.
are not saying
Yeah.
that. No, but we are not. Yeah, but we are not saying that it's going to be a bag of. It's going to be a bag of rice per month. But certainly not below a quarter.
Okay, a quarter bag of
So,
rice. So, okay, let's say
look at this.
you
Yes, a quarter.
you consume a quarter bag of rice,
And
you consume a quarter
and
bag
how
of
much-
gari, you consume a quarter bag of beans, all right, and you put some yams in it, right? And you make stew, you make vegetable, you put fish
Yes,
and meat.
yes.
250K will be enough now, because not only
Yes.
you will work, Madam too will work now. I mean, probably Madam too is the civil service. Would that be a decent rate?
No, it is not. And I'm going to explain to you why.
Okay.
You're going to look at transportation.
Okay.
You're going to look at rent. You're going to look at light. You're going to look at water. And you're going to look at your other social responsibilities, but which are equally key. So it is not fair. And I would like to use the opportunity to reiterate what Adela said, that we are now paying international rates. The World Bank, the IMF said no more subsidy, and there is no more subsidy. Raise energy rates, and energy rates have been raised. So it is only fair we get a semblance of international wages. But you know one thing? These guys are never going to try to do that in their hemisphere. By the time energy rates are raised by 10% in US or in the UK, the society will collapse. As I speak with you, 40% of big business has gone. 30% of the regular business wiped out. 60% of small business equally wiped out. This 250% hike, the toll is going to be even more devastating. Prices or cost of products and services, of course, we have to go up, and this will be passed on to you and I.
We know that prices have we know prices have gone up, but we need to get a rate. That's what we are saying. Because you see, before now,
Yes.
NLC stock to 615,000. Now we are blaming the federal government for 48,000. But at least we all know that 615,000 is not realistic. No government will pay you that amount in this country. Let's not deceive ourselves. So we are looking for at least a realistic threshold. That's what we are looking for. If you say 48,000 is not realistic, 615,000 is not realistic. Let's not deceive ourselves, because we need to get a rate forward so that when we look at this and NLC converges, we admit on the rate, we sign it into law, and people start to work on this. That's even if the state governors will even have our money to pay it in the first place, because anything you sign, the state governors can just decide not to pay it. Dr. Bati, over to you.
Mr. Upah, you've been talking about international rates. Just a moment. Maybe you take everything together.
Yes.
Now you've been talking about international rates. Rates. Countries don't pay minimum wage in line with international rates. The international principle is about dignity of labor, and then pay national minimum wage, within a period, and review it every 5 years. So it's not as if any international organization would dictate to Nigeria, pay this. The enabling law in Nigeria, which expired April 18, And the reason why a committee was set up to design a new national minimum wage is the National Minimum Wage Act of 2019. Mr. Upah, is Labour aware that whereas Section 3 sub 1 of that National Minimum Wage Act says nobody can pay below the national minimum wage in Nigeria. I'm quoting the enabling law. Now, that same act goes further in Section 4. In Section 4.1, it says that, look, Section 3.1 above will not apply in the following instances. So this 615,000 naira Labour is asking for, let everybody not think Labour is fighting for their interests, except that section of the law is going to be changed. What does that section say? It says, for example, if you are an employer of Labour and you have persons working for you who are part-time staff, you don't need to pay them national minimum wage. If there are persons who are, occasional staff, like people who work on a seasonal basis, as in agriculture, you don't need to pay national minimum wage. Where it is even interesting is that Section 4 of the Act says that if you are an employer of Labour and you have employees that are less than 25 in number, so if I'm running a business and I have less than 25 persons, the law does not say you must pay national minimum wage. And it goes further and says that persons who are involved in things like shipping, or maritime activities that are on a contractual basis and for whom international merchant shipping and aviation rules apply, then they will not fall under this category that we're talking about. So I hope Labour is aware of this before you give, the people of Nigeria generally, that everybody, even if you are working in an organization that has just 10 staff, that Labour is fighting for you to get 615. I'll just draw your attention to that. Beyond data, what the law says, until a new law is enacted.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bati. First of all, let me just explain what I mean by international rates. International rates in quote. By that, I mean what ordinarily passes on or what goes on in the major Western capitals, France, UK, including the US. So I am saying we have been compelled by the Bretton Woods institutions to pay for services and products as obtained in those countries. And I've been trying to draw an analogy between earnings, taking the average in those countries. And that's how I came to the 2.5 million naira as the minimum. So I'm not sure I've done wrong by saying that there is a nexus between capacity, between wages and capacity to pay. I think there is such a nexus. But let us even come closer home. I am delighted by your having to quote copiously here from the law. As a lawyer, I did not expect less from you, Dr. Bati. So, but I also want to point out to you that we are aware of the provisions and we are trying to ensure that more and more Nigerians are covered by the law. We are trying to ensure that if you employ as few as 5 persons, those 5 persons should also benefit from the law. You see, the essence of that law is to protect the vulnerable, irrespective of where they are or where they work, whether in government, whether in the private sector, even in the informal sector, as much as possible. Because the point is that if you pay wages that multiply poverty, there are social consequences for everyone. Wages should be able to enhance our well-being. That is the purpose of wages. And even the holy books say that the laborer deserves their wages. Okay? Now, let us do a comparative analysis between what obtains in the public service and what obtains in the political space. What is the salary of the councillor? What is the salary of the member of the State House of Assembly? What is the salary of those in the National Assembly? What is the salary? All of this. You know, there is a prescription for this. I mean, by that I mean that what the councillor in Bayelsa State earns is what the councillor in Yobe State earns. And nobody is complaining about that. And nobody is saying, because Yobe is relatively poorer than, say, Rivers State or Bayelsa State, I mean, that they will not pay. So nobody is saying anything about that. And we're just talking about salary on the table, not salary under the table, or other perks and privileges. Dr. Bati, I would want to implore you people to take note of this, that if we do not enhance these wages reasonably, we are all at risk, I assure you. And I'm using this opportunity to appeal to the government to see the need to make their citizens happy. I recall, when Obama came in, there was a recession in the US. I mean, but what did he do? Obama raised wages. Obama gave money to big businesses. And that created synergy. Even Trump enjoyed the bullish run of that boom. So why can we not do better than what we're doing? Look at what is being shared in fact. The states have become very rich. The federal government has become very rich. How can the country be so rich and its citizens so poor? It is unreasonable. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Benson, Upah, for your time with us this morning.
Well, thank you.